Russia's growing military role in the Middle East is posing new challenges to President Obama's plan to destroy ISIS. Russia's airstrikes in Syria increasingly targeting U.S.-backed rebels there. And now a majority of Americans, 61%, believe our national security interests are at stake in Syria. That, according to the latest Fox News polling. Our political insiders are back. Pat Caddell, Doug Schoen, and John LeBoutillier. Doug, what needs to happen in Syria now?
Well, we need to much more effectively support the anti-Assad rebels, and we need to say to the Russians, you cannot operate with impunity in Syria and indeed in the Middle East, because candidly, Patty Ann, we're losing. The Economist had a cover this week of the Russian and Chinese leaders, President Xi and Putin, with all the chips in a poker game, and President Obama with no chips. And that pretty accurately sums up what's happening. The Iranians have tested a long-range missile. And candidly, we are in very, very bad shape globally, getting worse as time goes on.
Doug, you know, Doug, those men you've mentioned, Putin and Xi, they have measured Obama, and they see him as basically a piece of tissue paper in the Oval Office that they can just march right through. And to think for the next 16 months there's going to be any change in the Oval Office towards Syria, what would we do to stop Putin now that he's there, bombing, drones, 1,000 Iranian troops? I hate to say it, it's too late.
Yeah, they say there's
the only thing Obama's done, John, is to say please. Please, pretty please, back down, and that's not going to work.
Pat Caddell, this same Fox News poll that we just cited shows only 29% of Americans agree with President Obama that Russia is weak and desperate, but 52% of Americans believe President Obama is weak and indecisive. Go for it.
Yes. well, look, this is what this tells us is the American people are not fooled by the, I don't know, the fantasy crap that comes out of the White House and out of a lot of the mainstream media. We're getting our rear ends handed to us. And let me just say about this president, every time he's confronted by evil, he waves a white flag. And every time he is confronted with America's national security interest at stake, he waves a white feather. It is a disaster, and it's going to be a huge issue next year, despite what the Democrats and the mainstream media think.
And let me say, the more it deteriorates, the more it will help a Trump-like candidate. Because the worse the mess is, the more the public goes, I can't handle it. I got to have someone come in and clean this mess up. And Trump is Mr. Cleanup because he's Mr. Independent, Mr. I solve every problem, Mr. I speak clearly. This helps him politically.
And Hillary is going to need a defense policy of her own that distinguishes herself from Obama, which is what she's begun doing. But she's got to do it. And, John, I predict as the general election approaches, you will see her do it and do it aggressively.
I could argue, a good Republican can argue, though, that she helped contribute to this mess.
Oh, absolutely. You're right about that.
All right.
Absolutely.
She already blew it.